All right. Hey, Masters, welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery podcast. And today we are with Mr. Gary Cardone. What's going on, Gary?
How you doing, man? Good to be here. Good to be
Doing
here on this. What is it? It's a Wednesday, March 20th, right?
Wednesday, March 20th, man. And this Bitcoin stuff is going crazy, bro. It's all over the place, man. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I tell my brother all the time that the biggest difference between Bitcoin and real estate is Bitcoin has a chart. And that's about the only difference. You can't look at Grant's portfolio and know what that chart, that particular asset's doing on any one day. It just doesn't have that liquidity. Okay, this 223 Post Oak Boulevard, Houston, Texas apartment building's worth this much. If you're an investor in that real estate, you get a distribution every month, hopefully, and you just kind of put it away and forget about it. With Bitcoin, because there's so much noise and there's a chart, even the long-term investors tend to look at that chart and get all, it moves their emotions around much more than real estate. So to me, that's one of the great big differences between real estate and Bitcoin. We'll get into why I think that, but it's been a really, really interesting journey.
Yeah, well, the volatility, man, is I mean, I've been in real estate a long time. That's how I know your brother. By the way, Grant's your twin brother, for people that don't know.
Correct.
My wife was looking at your picture yesterday. She's like, "That looks just like Grant." I was like, "Yes, it is Grant's brother, man." Let me ask you this question, kind of a little off topic, but you and Grant, completely different spaces, right? But yet both massively successful in your space, and your twins. I mean, that seems kind of rare to see two twins at that level, or is that normal? I guess I haven't studied a lot of twins, but is that a rarity, or is it normal? And why are you both so successful?
I don't know the answer to the last question. Maybe we're just hard-headed and we don't give up. I don't know. I mean, we don't really do that much together either. Like when I was 21, I left my home. Grant stayed there for, I think, 6, 7, 8 years with mommy. He just had a slower start. And I remember him complaining to me about it. He's like, "Dude, you got such a good job. You're working for one of those big corporates and you get stock options and you get paid a bunch of money." And it was just a different journey. I think probably we both felt like we were obligated to do something meaningful with our lives just for our parents, because they really surrendered a lot to get us here. But I can't. It's either competition or insecurity or fear, or I actually think it's more negative emotions that have driven this type of success than necessarily, okay, I'm a perfect guy. I think actually, if you really study most successful people, they have something driving them, some kind of need to prove, maybe a little chip on the shoulder. That's probably, maybe a bit of a chip on the shoulder. But yeah, no, he's been massively successful, took a different path, did his own thing. I have to remind people that I was quite a bit more wealthy than Grant in the early years, working with and for other people. So I worked for one company for 17 years, made a lot of money, and got extremely well educated about macro markets. So I would just tell everyone, you can do it on your own, and you can do it working with other groups and platforms and people, if they're the right platform and the right people for you. Served me very well. Like, I'm building something right now. I have no interest in doing it just under Gary Cardone. I actually want to work. Like, I just hired a political analyst. He's going to join our team. I'm going to learn a lot from him. So I love working in a group of people. It also allows me to go on holiday and not have to worry about the business all the time. I can let other people do things and scale. So, I think we've been really lucky, man. Really.
Well, congratulations. I'll say that to you. And I've had Grant on a couple times too, and same thing, man. Just a good dude, hard worker, outworks everybody, and that's one of those things that you just you have to respect the work ethic.
Yeah. If I'm digging something, there's very few people that can outwork me.
Yeah. Well, so you're really an innovator, right? Like you see, like, are you a tech guy? Is that what attracted you to the Bitcoin, like the technology of it? Or
No,
let's talk
I'm
about
not.
how.
Yeah, people would laugh if you. No, I'm definitely not a tech guy. I actually think maybe people spend a little too much time thinking about the tech. I would say I'm more, when you said innovator, I love being in a marketplace where I see it's just starting to undergo change. And but massive change, right? It's on the precipice of like, okay, like when my first career was helping the natural gas and electricity markets change to what they are today. And most people don't know what the nat gas and electric markets are, but there was a time when you didn't have a price on the screen for natural gas or electricity. Just like there was a time when you didn't have a price in the futures market for Bitcoin. And these markets are developed by people like me who come in. There was about 50 men, and we came in and we said, look, there's a better way to do this, US government. And the better way to do it is to let the market work. And so we created a bunch of principles whereby the basic theory was if someone had natural gas or power, instead of just a utility, where do you live? What part of the world?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So instead of the Boston utility
Which
being
is
the
super
only
high,
person,
by the way, super high cost of utilities here and electricity.
totally. So what we said was, look, instead of Boston Utility being the only one to be able to provide energy, maybe we should open the market up and let the market work, supply and demand work. And now we have a market that trades on 30-minute power, daily nat gas, and that market has grown massively without long-term contracts. Spent 20 years doing that and thought the party was over, that we had done the most damage we could. I was starting to get bored, took some time off. Even my career I've disrupted in that, hey, I'm not going to be this career guy that has to stay in natural gas and power, even though I'm bored. Like I was just no longer really interested in the game. So I took time off, broke the code of getting out of the work system, and took 6 or 7 years off, studied, read books, history, religion, started getting bored again and said, okay, let me go build another business. Hooked up with the right person who got me into the payments industry, and we built a fraud business in that space. Started getting bored in about 6 years. The company was 300 people or so. International business. We were living. I'd moved back to London and started looking at Bitcoin and blockchain, and got really. I tried to get into this space in 2018, but my business was so big, it was a very complicated relationship with my partner, who was also my wife and the mother of my children, and it was clear, okay, this business is destroying this family, which it effectively did. We made a lot of money. I made a lot of money. But it cost quite a bit being an entrepreneur. But I was bored with that business, and had I exited earlier, it would have actually been the right thing for me to exit earlier. But I love being in spaces where the whole puzzle is being changed. I am very good. I'm either going to create the change and make the puzzle start changing, or if I see a puzzle or a monopoly game that's being disrupted, I'll come in and go, okay, hey, now I can put super fuel on this thing and really advance the change, or help advance the change. So I just like it when it's almost like you're on a bridge and you're crossing over into a new realm. And for certain, we are digitizing planet Earth. And if you think about digitizing planet Earth, what does that mean? We could never do this before because we never had compression technology like we have today. What we're doing right now was not available to us 10 years ago. Right? Why? Because we have technology, we have compression, we have the ability to compress large amounts of data into one packet and send it, just like what we're doing. Almost professional grade. I got a $600 camera. It looks pretty good. CNN's probably spent 60 grand on one camera.
I know, right?
So you start seeing these advances, you're like, hey man, this is happening at a very, very, very rapid rate. Why would you want to stay in a legacy construct, a legacy world where everything moves slow? The future is going to be speed and rent. And it's going to be speed and rent. It's not going to be about ownership. It's going to be about speed and rent, and flexibility and adaptability.
So explain speed and rent. What do you mean by that?
Well, you own an automobile?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Well, if I told you when you were going to buy that automobile that you were going to keep it in a garage 96% of the time and insure it 100% of the time, you'd be like, huh? Yeah, you're only driving that car 4% of the time, okay? It is a gross misuse of asset, okay? Like all the energy that went into the machine, all the energy that went into the engine, the metal, the tires, and now you got to build a little container to put it in. And that needs some lighting. Like there's a lot of energy goes into making our lives really, really comfy, right? And we do not utilize these assets well. So, for instance, a home. Everybody thinks a home is a great investment. I think a home is something you buy to something you use. It's not an investment. Like when did it become an investment? When your grandmother bought a house for 15 grand and now she can sell it for 300, she was in the damn home 80 years, man. I mean, that's not a great trade. So it's only a great trade on the moment you buy it. If you steal a piece of property, okay, cool. Now that's different than an apartment building that's making distributions. People confuse these two things. Like, well, a home is not, for instance, I fly on planes. I don't buy a whole plane company, right? Most people don't buy a plane. They rent a plane or they buy a ticket and get on a plane. So yet with a car, it's just become or a house, it's become very comfortable. I have to live in a house, and mommy, typically the woman, and you said you have a big audience of women for some reason seem to think that owning a home makes them better than renting a home. And I'm having a party here Friday night, and if anyone walks into my home and says, hey, do you rent or do you own, before I walk into the house, what kind of person would ask that question?
Yeah.
If I invite you to my hotel room in the Four Seasons Hotel,
a real estate agent might ask that question, but yeah,
but not coming to a party, right? It shouldn't really matter
yeah,
if you're joining me at my home for dinner, whether I rent or own it.
Yeah,
you don't ask me that question at the Four Seasons Hotel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like your girl doesn't, if you go to the Four Seasons Hotel and y'all have a nice weekend, she didn't say, hey, we own that, right? No, she's going to be like, man, my man took care of me. We went to the Four Seasons this weekend. Now, isn't it better to rent the Four Seasons 3 nights a year than to own the Four Seasons? Like, if you're not a professional hoteler, I suspect that's the case. Right. So there's just a lot of things that we use every day that just sits around collecting dust. And so I believe that we were going to move to a rental economy, a market where you rent and you pay as you go.
I see that. So let's talk about the Bitcoin, and because you mentioned disruption earlier. What exactly does Bitcoin disrupt for people that are listening to this conversation?
What does it disrupt? Well, let's think about how I think what Bitcoin is. First off, what is this? Okay, so this is a $20 note. It has Secretary of Treasury's name. I can't even read his name. Got some serial numbers, right? It's pretty. I guess it's pretty. It's not nearly as pretty as the pound sterling. This is the second oldest currency in the world. Okay, there have been thousands of these before. Okay, the UK pound sterling, which is a much prettier note, is the oldest currency in the world. The ruble is about 8 years old. Okay, the euro is about 15 or 20 years old. Why am I sharing that? Well, currencies have been around like this. Paper currencies have been around for centuries. And guess what they all do? All of them, 100% of them end up in nothing. Literally nothing now. It's a piece of paper. These were printed on a machine. The 40% of all of this was printed in the last 5 years. 40% of all currency in the world was printed and pushed into the market in the last 4 to 5 years. Okay. So what do we know about this? We know that you can make this without any kind of stop. There's no control. They print, and then they throw more of it out. Most people don't really understand this, but if I offered you an apple and it was the only apple in the world, I'm pretty sure it has decent value, right? You'd pay me 50 cents for an apple if you're hungry, right? What if I had 10 million apples? I could just constantly make apples out of a machine. You're going to be less interested in that second, third, or 50th apple. In fact, 100 apples creates a problem for you. You now have flies. You have a storage problem. You've got to buy a refrigerator. You get my point, right?
Yes.
Bitcoin, algorithmically, there are 19.6 million units that have been mined, produced, and available to people like myself and you. They're sitting in wallets. They're in the market. They have been distributed over the last 15 years. In the next 100 and some odd years, there's going to be the last 1.5 to 2 million for a total of 21 million units. You can never make any more of these. Okay. There's only 21 million. It's hard coded into the algorithm, and you're not going to produce any more. You're also, unlike this stuff and crude oil and natural gas, you cannot force the acceleration of these last 2 million units. These 2 million units are going to come in over 100 years. Every 4 years, they're going to produce. Now we're producing 9 Bitcoin a day. It goes to 4.5 Bitcoin a day in April the 20th. 4 years goes forward, it will be 1/2 less. So the volume, think of this as crude oil, okay? The crude oil is coming down in volume, like it's being highly controlled. It's 4 million units this year, and then it's 2 million units, and then it's 1 million. Well, you should have demand increasing, yet you have supply. What happens in other policies? In this stuff, if people have a huge demand for it, what do? Let's print some more money, okay? And so they fill that demand, and they're, oh, wow, we got too many dollars. Those dollars start chasing what? Investment. What does it invest in? Hey, let's go buy a house. Okay. So you buy a house, you use that $20 to buy the house. I go to the bank, they give me $100 on the 20, and I buy $100 house for my $20 investment. So now I have leverage. Not only has the paper, not only has the paper been replicated out of thin air, but now the bank gives me a multiple factor on it. Right? I give them the 20, they give me $100 back in real estate. The ability to buy $100 in real estate. Okay, that's called fractionization. This world, you and all your audience, we have never, ever, ever. I will give someone 1 Bitcoin if you can show me anything this planet has ever been able to acquire that has a finite supply source to it. There's only one example I can come up with, and it's not really, but there's only one example, and we devalue that example also. So I don't think humanity has the ability to think in terms of finite. I think we all think we live forever.
What's the one
Pardon?
example? Out of curiosity, what's the one example?
You and me, dude. Like, I have a twin brother, but like, if you sit down with me and my brother, we are massively different human beings. I mean, massively different. We're probably more different than we look similar. You are a unique, one of a kind, ain't going to be replicated anytime soon that I know about. And no one, and we do not even value that, man. What we do is we go to human beings. Oh, man, that guy's got a beard, dude. He's wearing a Bitcoin hat. You know, I'm not sure. He's got an accent. He's not my dude. How about we focus on what you are brilliant at? Okay. We human beings love to disagree and agree on what they disagree on instead of, hey, can we find some common ground here? Right? Just any kind of common ground. Let's go find the common ground first. And then we're not arguing with each other all the time. So what I know is that we devalue the only thing, humanity, which has a finite lifespan. Bitcoin does not have a finite lifespan. It will last forever. There is no degradation. Imagine meeting a woman and she was a magic woman, dude. She's never going to degrade. You can steal little fragments off her body and sell them to me, and she doesn't even care. Now, if I explained a woman like that to you, doesn't decay, doesn't degrade, never goes bad, she's a bit volatile. Her price on a chart moves around a bit, but she never leaves you. She's never going to betray you, and it's never going to lose value against other things. It sounds like a pretty good chick to me, right? This is why I get to, my allocations. My allocation is, quite frankly, most people think I'm crazy. My allocation actually is probably more correct than other people thinking about 1% and 2% and 3% allocation of Bitcoin because of this finite scarcity, rare algorithm. Also, this particular product has been attacked, attempted to be raped, pillaged, shut down, stopped by every major government on the planet, including the very people that freaking built this thing. The decentralized nature of Bitcoin, because it has no management, it's actually been a big problem. Yet here we are, dude, $64,000, a $1.5 trillion market cap with no centralized management team, no marketing team, no PR, no consistent anything except people going, oh, wow, look at this product relative to this or relative to the price of a car. I mean, I bought a Range Rover in 2015. Cost me 120 grand. I probably could have used 10 Bitcoin back then to buy it. Today it'd be 3. So see, like, think about that. Okay. I could have bought a Range. The house I'm living in right now, had I invested this money in Bitcoin 3.5 years ago, would be worth $42 million. Now, I have a beautiful home, okay, but it is not worth $42 million. It's not. Yeah. Had I taken that money, deployed it into Bitcoin, this home can be replicated, okay? Most certainly it can be replicated. So that's the way I'm measuring Bitcoin against other things, right? Other opportunities, whether that's private equity or a piece of real estate, a company, a piece of gold. Bitcoin's more similar to gold than it's not.
So I want to, and I think I've shared this with you. So to the disruption though, what it's doing is it's disrupting is it the currency? Is that ultimately what you think it disrupts, or is it the financial system? Like what would you say? Like, and I'll tell you what, most people if you talk to 100 people, right? And I do this all the time. I'm a part of our chambers. I have a networking group. We meet. I'm always talking about it, and 90% of the people either could care less. 5% of them think it's an absolute scam, and a couple of people are, yeah, I heard of it. But why is nobody paying attention to it? Like, why do people think it's a scam?
Well, I think that's an excellent Excellent question and an excellent point. I don't think very many people know about Bitcoin. I get back to the marketing and sales, the PR behind this product has been extremely hokey. Okay. It's been almost a religious zealot proposition, total freedom. I personally would not have led with, hey, we're going to destroy the US dollar. I mean, why would you lead with, hey, I'm going to go poke the bear in the eyeball 27 times and keep repeating it to every congressman and senator? I've been doing this my whole life. I wouldn't lead with that, right? I just don't go in guns blaring. I like to look at Bitcoin as, hey, what is the opportunity, not what it's disrupting? Because most people don't invest in disruption. They invest in what's going to be safe. Disruption normally comes with, hey, there's risk. I think this is I think one of the things that is massively disrupting, though, is it's creating a conversation where we're beginning to recognize how poorly educated you and I and everyone around us has been miseducated, I would actually say, on what money is, what assets are, what liabilities are, and how you attain wealth and power. In fact, what is freedom, right? Because I think freedom is tied directly to how much money you have at this point in the world.
Yeah,
he who has the most power, the most money, will have a greater level of freedom than other people. And if you ask the real important question, hey, what is freedom? Freedom is my ability to say no to you. Saying no is really, really, really powerful, man. And so for me, I just watched Mark Zuckerberg just bought 2 big super yachts, right? Like, okay, cool. I don't know how much money he gives away. I think there's a lot more things I can do with $200, $300, $400, $500 million than buy a boat. Which I would like for me, that would be a really cool disruption. A guy like me can get into Bitcoin because I can see this. I create a tremendous amount of wealth, and then I take that wealth and I go bend it against the industries that are taking and not giving. And I think that's all this is about, is that there's a lot of take in the old analog world. Like, for instance, I used to have to, why my watch? Now they have them where I only have to pay attention to it every 2 years. I got to change the battery. Is that better or worse? I kind of like not having to why on my watch all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I get tired of it, right? So the batteries in your phone, the longer they last, the more you use it. So I think what we're beginning to do is learn this Bitcoin thing that was a circus, a carnival, has exceeded every asset and asset class in the world over 15 years. This is no longer a little baby. Okay. We are 15 years into a market. It's been attacked so many times, dude, that it should have already been put to bed. So I like that. I look at that and go, wow, you've been attacked by China, the SEC. I mean, the SEC keeps losing. Everybody's attacked this bloody thing. The other thing that I think that the world has never seen before, this world has never seen a product, at least in the last 150 years, that the U.S. has zero control of. The United States of America has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Fucking ban it. I dare you to ban it. Okay. The price will go up tomorrow morning. Guys like me will leave this country. Like, I will leave this country. I have lived in other countries for 15 years. So the more you keep taking from me, the more and putting controls, I will go somewhere else.
Well, let me ask you this to that point, because, the ETF, right, is really what in a lot of ways has helped Bitcoin, right? Would you agree with that? Like, now that it's legitimized in a lot of ways.
It has been validated. It has been validated.
Now, doesn't that kind of that's like the government or the, getting into it now, right? Like, kind of getting some control is right.
Kind of, but we're still only 12% of the market. I mean, JP Morgan Chase doesn't control the crude oil market. OPEC. In fact, ExxonMobil doesn't control the crude oil market. If I asked your audience, give me the list of the top 10 oil producers in the world, most of them would get it wrong. Most of them are going to say Exxon, Mobil, Shell, Conoco. No, it's sovereigns, man.
BP, isn't it? Is it BP?
No. BP doesn't even make the list. This is a Saudi Aramco, man. What is Saudi Aramco? The Saudi entire country. Russia is a sovereign, okay? Like these are countries now, okay? And if you think they're not taking their fossil fuel that's trapped in the middle of nowhere land, that don't even have any pipes connected to it, and they're not going to mine Bitcoin, like this is a game theory thing that's going to happen on like it's going to impact Bitcoin is going to seriously impact the flows of energy, because the oil producers are going to figure out, oh my God, man, I can produce energy in places that I have no market for it. I have 4,000 miles of pipeline. I could literally stick a data center right next to those facilities, which by the way, they know how to run facilities. Okay. And we're not even talking about a nuclear power station yet. These oil and gas, what do you, when you drive through Louisiana, what do you see? Refining. What is Bitcoin? Refining, dude. It's refining electronic code into Bitcoin. Okay. So if you can do that and your cost of nat gas is zero, I think you're going to be a serious Bitcoin miner. So it just sets up a whole new structure. And it's coming at a really interesting time. And I know we're bouncing around quite a bit, but there's a lot of geopolitical things going on that has completely shifted the dynamics of how countries compete and cooperate with each other. We are a global market, but we now have 4 or 5 different market centers that are going to compete for both consumption and production of goods and services. And I like that. I think that's really, really, really healthy. And it's coming in while we have robotics and AI and more technology. One day, dude, you and I think it'll happen in this year, you and I are going to have the little machines working for us. They're going to be our assistants. They're not going to make all these little StreamYard's so difficult to set up. That should be a computer. My guys keep messing it up. I mean, they don't know how to bounce between StreamYard and then Zoom. A computer will just fix all this problem, all these problems, right? And then I'll pay the computer a couple of little sats for the work they did. Now, is that more efficient than you and I paying somebody 60 grand a year?
Hell yeah.
They're on call 24/7? Of course it is, right?
Yeah.
Everybody worries about losing their job. I'm like, well, you're not even enjoying the job you're doing. So what are you afraid to lose? Why wouldn't you just go create something, right? Like if you're not doing menial jobs that don't require a lot of brain power, you'll be freed up to now go create something. And I think that's awesome. If humanity's spending more time creating and thinking, I've probably done my best work in the last 5 years of my life because I have done less and thought more. Like people, my brother and I could probably disagree on this pretty heavily. I don't think we would end up just because he's such a doer. There's a time for me to be quiet and listen and just think. So I'm happy for this. And like I'm the old guy in the room, right? I'm happy with this innovation. Why am I so happy about it? Because I look at it and go, it's efficient, man. It makes sense. I don't need to own a car. Like I need to own a car. Wow. You're going to judge me by the car I drive? Or the house I live in, or much less whether I own the house or whether I rent the house.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, I started, I met you on X. Before that, I didn't even know Grant had a twin brother, to be honest with you. And I'm part of Grant's organization.
He's not proud of me, man.
He is. I see you guys in there chopping it up all the time. But so you were talking about Bitcoin, and so I started buying Bitcoin at 33. thousand. It's 64 now. It was as high as 73, I think, and it's going down. And so I appreciate that. But it's the only, like, I want you to, for people listening. So, let's say you take $50,000 that's sitting in a bank account. It's sitting there earning nothing. Like if you leave it in the bank, well, you could do a CD and get 5%, right? This money has doubled, right? And even now, after it's gone up and down, but there's a lot of volatility with that, man. I was talking about that yesterday. And so I think that is one of the, at least for me, and the way I get beyond it, Gary, is educate myself, pay attention to charts, have conversations like with people like you, so that I realize that that's part of what makes it so valuable, right? Can you explain like why the volatility is actually what makes this such a valuable asset?
Well, one thing it does is it distracts a lot of people from investing in it. And I would not take that lightly. Okay. I'm going to repeat it because I see you looking at me going, huh? If you have, I've probably in my life bought 15 or 16 homes. My most favorite homes to buy are those advertisements on Zillow or wherever, where the camera work was done shoddy. The seller, cut corners, maybe used the old photos. But you're looking at it, as soon as you show up the house, you're like, man, those photos were shit. I immediately know, oh, wow, there's a lot of people that were put off by those photos, didn't show up here. I think the volatility terrifies most people.
Yeah.
And this is where I get back to the education issue, that how poorly you and I have been educated. I think other places in the world have the same problem, but I'm just going to focus on America because that's where my passport's from. I look at the volatility and go, dude, this is awesome. This is the best feature of this, because unlike most people, evidently, I don't have stacks of dollars sitting in my drawer back here that I just have sitting here all day and I'm waiting for a $20,000 down day. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is the volatility allows me to collect more money after I'm fully deployed into Bitcoin. I collect more money from doing things in this world, in the fiat world. I collect US dollars or pounds sterling. I can then take that money, and when there's a big drawdown, like, oh, wow, we had a $10,000 down day, I get to deploy some funds into that big drop. My question to you would be, how many times have you heard about the volatility and you did not hear, hey, this is a 700% return in the last 5 years? See, in order to say, hey, look, there's a lot of volatility, I think you need to add in, and by the way, everyone's lost money. No, there's a lot of volatility. And if you hold it for 4 years, you will never have lost money. In fact, if you held it for 15 years, I'm going to tell you, you made like 15 million%. Well, people are like, well, that's just stupid. They can't even have that. So you remove the first 5 years and you go from 2018 to 2023. We have over a 500% return, and it was volatile. But dude, if you were on a ship in the middle of nowhere, you would have never known it was volatile. You would have gone on that vacation with 100 Bitcoin that you bought at 15 grand, and you wake up today and it's now 63. And tomorrow morning it might be 53 or 83 or 204. But over 15 years, it has done this, bro. Like it has eaten everything. You have to go compare Bitcoin to the S&P 500 in the last 5 years. The S&P has returned 0. Okay, you look at crude oil, 0. Gold, 0. Okay, like you have to compare. And this is why I say that we're uneducated. This house I bought for $8.6 million is not worth $42 million. If I would have deployed that $8.6 million into Bitcoin at the exact same day, it would be worth $42 million. Now, what does that mean about my home? Or does it mean something about this relative to Bitcoin? Right? These homes are always going to go up. As long as we keep doing this, dude, printing money. These homes always go. That's why real estate goes up, because you're inflating the money supply. There's more money to go around. At lower interest rates, people deploy those funds, and they think owning a house is owning an asset. I think owning a house is an actual liability. Well, Bitcoin doesn't require any maintenance, no insurance, no staff, no roof replacements. I never get a phone call from Bitcoin. Hey, there's a leak in the basement. Never. I never get those. I can deploy as much as I want. And unlike real estate, I can liquidate it within a minute. Cannot do that with real estate. I probably can't get a distribution yet from Bitcoin like I do from Grant, but I'm not comparing this with Grant's properties. I'm comparing this with this home. There is only one thing that happens in this home. Money leaves this home and pays other people to take care of it. You see, like that's a big deal, right? Now people are going to go, well, Gary, you could rent the house. I wish I could rent the house. Okay. And they're going, oh, you're going to throw your money away. Really? I'll throw my money away if I don't take the money I save from investing and invest it in a proper asset that actually increases in value. That's just throwing your money away if all you're doing is renting. The concept is, instead of buying, you rent, and then you take that excess money, the insurance, all that stuff you would have paid, the mowing, the electric, all that stuff, you deploy that into an asset that grows, whether it's my brother's fund, your own fund, or Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin because zero human risk, zero human error risk. I've never had an opportunity to do that, even with the most unique woman on the planet. This is where Bitcoin beats the human rarity thing. Humans go crazy, right? Humans change their mind. Bitcoin's mind is never going to be changed, man. It's an algorithm. It's code.
So, well, I know we planned for about 40 minutes. So I know we've already gone over that. How are you? Do you have a couple more minutes, or how you doing?
Sure, I do. No, we were late, man. Just let's
I
run.
know. Yeah. So, I mean, probably this should be a 3-hour conversation, but we'll chop it up for a couple more minutes. I do also, I want to see if anybody has any questions. If you do, you can drop them in the chat. We also have a group of people on Clubhouse. If you have a question, raise your hand. I'm happy. Jeremy, I know I see you up there. If you have a question, let me know. You can ask Gary. And so what do you say? So there was, I shared my experience with, the fear, waking up at 3 a.m, looking at my phone, right. Which I shouldn't. And by the way, last night I refused to do that. Right. I got the message delivered. Like, I'm not going to do that again. And I'm in. Because I understand, Gary, because I went through it years ago with stocks. My financial advisor told me not to sell in 2008, right? In 2009. And I didn't. And a lot of people sold, and they all lost a ton of money. 10 years later, my money was above where it was in 2008, right? So I had to go back to that experience, But I think a lot of us, the fear is what I think prevents a lot of people from getting into it. But what do you say about, like, you were there last night when I shared that story in one of the maxis, I guess, right? Like, we call them maxis. And I mean, you tell me, are you a maxi? Do you consider yourself a maxi?
I don't tend to get, look, I get nervous around cults. Okay. I think when it becomes a little too dogma and extreme, this whole maxi thing, I mean, we'll go another hour if we go here, but no, I'm not. I'm Bitcoin first, but I still live in a fiat world. Okay, I own real estate. You can't. My life is too complicated just to unwind everything. So, and this thing about the problem I have with the maxis, the end of the world. Well, the world they seem, one or two of them seem to want, is Mad Max. And I would rather have no Bitcoin and no Mad Max. Mad Max is not a cool place to be. I don't care how many Bitcoin you have. Also, me having thousands of Bitcoin and running around in sandals without Wi-Fi on beaches that don't have airplanes and airports. And, you know, I'm traveling undercover and I have to use a pseudonym, and that's not a life I want to lead. Okay. I got people telling me, hey, you shouldn't be so vocal. Well, then Bitcoin's not very secure if I can't talk about owning. This doesn't happen in crude oil. Hey, you're going to get hacked and you're going to get ripped off and people are going to it's a very immature thing. We're not even ready for wide scale adoption yet. So in 2015, I heard that Bitcoin was going to take over payments. It's just laughable. Okay. Maybe in 20 years, it took Visa, MasterCard 52 years. Okay, greatest duopoly ever existed in humanity. Took them 52 years to get 7 credit cards in your back pocket. So I don't think those people are going away anytime soon. And I think that's the good news. That means this journey is going to be 20 or 30 or 40 years long, man, because it has to take out all of that, right? And it means awesome careers for people. Awesome careers. You don't just have to own Bitcoin. You should be looking at this industry as, oh, wow, this is going to be an industry. And if you look at the amount of people coming here and the quality, okay, just like, why is a guy like me here? I don't need to be here, man. This is really exciting. Okay. Why is Dan Tapiro here? He walked away from Wall Street. There's a lot of guys walking away from Wall Street, and they're coming into this game because we don't see these opportunities this often. So I think the volatility, just to get back to the volatility, I don't even know why.
I want to just say something real quick about the maxi, just so people listening understand. It stands for maximalist, right? And it's a community, almost like you said, a cult. It's almost like and you know, I think it's important for Bitcoin to have that, right? Like they have their philosophy, and their philosophy, there's no other way. It's like a religion in a lot of ways. And you know, the guy last night, you know, asked me, he says, well, did you get into Bitcoin because it's oh God, I forget the way he asked me.
On the price or on the theory? On the theory. He was trying to box you in.
Yeah, and I said straight out, I got in as an investment. To me,
so did he, dude.
Yeah, it's like what?
So did he. This is all about price, okay? This bullshit about it's not about the number. The number is violently important that it goes up. At $12, we would not be here. This is total, utter bullshit. It's absolutely about money. Because without the money, I mean, I have 2 areas that really frustrates me. I'm never going to sell. Why wouldn't you sell $1 billion of Bitcoin so you could invest $1 billion into building infrastructure for the Bitcoin industry? Like, how selfish are you, man? That's ridiculous that you're never going to sell Bitcoin. Okay, like, come on. That means you can't actually be a maxi, because if you're going to sell it, you're probably not selling it for more Bitcoin. You're probably selling it to buy something that lives in the fiat world. Right? So, I own a house. Gosh, I'm pretty sure that my utility bill is not being paid in Bitcoin. I'm in the fiat world, dude. I'm no longer a Bitcoin maxi. I have some bonds over there. Well, you know, they came with the story, you know, I wasn't going to. Oh, no. If you're a maxi, dude, you should have dumped your 401k, taken the 20% penalty, and then redeployed it. Quite frankly, they would have made a lot more money had they done that.
Smart. Yeah.
But I mean, I got maxi guys that you think they're a maxi, but they have a $10 million gold position. Ooh, is that a maxi? Or did they violate the chastity rules? So I just think I think some of these people are really, really young, and we don't actually want that to happen that way. We want this to leak out into the industry a little slower, and like, it's better if it goes slow. You don't want to see bankruptcies and people go, like, that's not healthy, because then you'll have the government come in and do lots of intervention if you create too many breaks and starts, right? Problems. But look, everybody's got their theory, man. And I think that I love the ethos of Bitcoin. I like this you can't dilute it. And it's not held by one guy. There is no head. I think that's awesome, but it does come with some negatives. And I think those are the negatives that are allowing me to buy this at 63. Because I reiterate, no one is in Bitcoin yet. Only people like me that are edge cases, really. There's no one in Bitcoin, not yet. You can just survey them. Go to dinner with your wife tonight and go around the restaurant, ask everybody.
No, you're right.
Nope. Yes, I have a little bit.
So Gary, in kind of closing up, what would you say people listen? It's like somebody listens to this, they really have nothing, they're not in Bitcoin at all right now. What would you tell them? What would you want to say to them? And what would be the next step for them that would make sense?
Yes, man, don't get into Bitcoin, man. Okay. As soon as you get into Bitcoin, you're going to drive up the demand. Do not get into Bitcoin. It's too volatile. Don't get into Bitcoin because I'm getting very rich from this. Don't get into Bitcoin. It has zero human error risk. Don't get into Bitcoin because, the government doesn't like it. But the government, by the way, PS, we only have 12% of the market. Let's see. Don't buy Bitcoin because, Wall Street just launched the largest ETF in history. Okay. $50 billion. They thought it was going to be $2 billion, man. By the end of the year. We're so far beyond that. Don't buy Bitcoin because, the really rich people have not validated this yet. They're not really in it. Okay. You want to be last to the party. Be last. Okay. Again, you have been last to every fucking party on the planet. Every IPO that you were not invited to. You didn't get invited to the PayPal IPO. You didn't get invited to the Facebook IPO or the Google or the Amazon or the NVIDIA. You didn't get invited to any of those IPOs, much less the money that went in front of the IPO. Here is Bitcoin, this weird little thing, been around 15 years. Your bankers don't understand it. By the way, they've been making fees on you forever. So I think they're kind of got something to protect. Why else shouldn't you buy Bitcoin? Your family's not going to understand it. It's going to require you to actually read a white paper, which you've probably never read a white paper. You immediately hear a white paper and you're like, that's well beyond my scientific capability. It's 15 fucking pages long. Okay, go read the damn white paper. If you can't read, watch it on YouTube. They draw graphics for you. Let's see. Guys, don't buy Bitcoin because there's some crazy people. That'd be like saying, well, I'm going to leave the country because we've had some crazy people running it. Like it is so hard for you to confront that this is monopoly money.
Yeah.
That literally they make this up. It just gets printed over and over, and every currency on the planet has declined. Not 99%, but 100%. This currency will fail one day. I'm not saying it's going to fail in 20 years. But to have an insurance policy like Bitcoin that doesn't require any monthly premiums, that I can just stick in my pocket and roll out to some other country and decide I'm going to chill out for 2 years with a bank in my pocket. And I'm not suggesting that everybody carry all their money in a Bitcoin wallet. I think that's one of the great things the ETF affords normal people. Okay, this is where me and the maxis get wrong, because the maxis like, hey, I don't want them going in the ETF. I would rather them not invested in Bitcoin than going in the ETF. That is total ego, selfish bullshit. Okay, I invite everyone into Bitcoin any way you can get there, dude. Binance, Coinbase, Bit this, Bit that, ETF, Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, Coin. I don't care, man. Okay, come in before the water is full of whales, full of people that go, I'm going. There are no rich people that have deployed the right amount of capital into Bitcoin, dude. No one. Okay. My brother is massively and grossly underallocated into Bitcoin for his size. Now, is it going to impact his life? Nope. Not 1 cent will he be impacted, but it's going to impact your life. Because if Grant misses $1 billion move, dude, it doesn't matter. If you miss $1 million move, it matters a lot, right? Much less. Hey, what if I'm wrong and it could be a $10 million move? I think Bitcoin has an unlimited capability on price. And that the only thing that we struggle with, and this is really, really hard, but remember, we started the show, you do not know of one product. You cannot find a product at any price that you can buy that is truly finite. If you can answer that question, I don't even think you need to read white paper. Have you ever had the ability to buy anything that could not be duplicated, copied, or replicated, or produced in greater volume? If the answer is no, you deserve to spend 25 hours studying this subject. Not one human being I know has studied this subject 25 hours and not come in heavy, dude.
Yeah.
Not one person has walked away. And I offer to anyone, you take a course with me, I don't even charge for it. 25 hours. If you walk away from Bitcoin, I'll give you a Bitcoin. Like once you really understand what's happening, you're like, oh my goodness, this is something I've never seen before. That's why I use really dumb analogies like women. Rare, one of a kind, loyal, never ages. Ooh, steal a fragment off her arm and sell it to your buddy. Doesn't care. It's not even considered anything bad. Except from the maxis, of course, that would be a major sin. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think this is as complicated as people make it out to be, but they don't understand how this was created. And if you don't understand this, it's going to be impossible to understand the value of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you something that helped me. It might have been a Michael Saylor video I watched, and without going too deep into it, but they showed a house, you know, in the 1800s, a mansion, right on a like a what's that thing called? Like a big parcel of land, and a bag with $100,000, and they buried the bag with the $100,000 in the ground, and then 200 years later, the bag $100,000 was worth $100,000, which is a lot less than it was back then. And that parcel of land with the house on it was worth multiple millions of dollars. Yep. So at least that helped me understand the difference between the real estate and the money, the fiat. And now I understand the difference between the Bitcoin, because I feel like it's in a lot of ways similar.
Yeah, this is why people say, hey, when you start thinking in Bitcoin terms. Now, this is a really weird concept for most people. Now, I understand what they're saying. When you start pricing everything in Bitcoin, you have turned like it's a bit of a, oh, wow, right? Like I now look at almost everything in Bitcoin. Do I want to buy a new car? I think Bitcoin's going to be worth $1 million. This is going to take 4 Bitcoin. No, I'm not buying a new car. There is no new car for me worth $4 million. So what I would say to you, sir, is as you look at your position in Bitcoin, don't look at it as what your cost is. I would look at, if your cost is 52 grand, I would look at, hey, honey, we own $1 million worth of Bitcoin. If you own 1 Bitcoin, I think it's worth $1 million. Now the question is going to be, is it 3 years or 30? But sooner or later, supply and demand kick in. And 6,000 Rolls Royces a year sold brand new for over $500,000. There's 406,000 families worth $50 million each, dude. They're probably making $4 to $10 million a year in distributions. Okay, all that money's at work. It's not just sitting in a bank somewhere. It's being deployed into real estate. They've got all this income coming in. They don't even need to sell all their assets. This is actually disagree with Mike Saylor. Dude, they're not going to dump their bonds and their equities. They're going to take the money they have from their real estate holdings and all their private equity, and they're going to move that into Bitcoin. And they're going to keep all the other stuff too. There's too much money. You heard Grant the other night, dude. 57 bids on a $75 million property. Only one guy's buying that. Bitcoin, all 57 bids would have gotten a piece of that piece of real estate. Now, dude, you want to own a product that's 57 bidders and they can all take a piece? That's going to drive the price up, right? Now, these 56 losers on that real estate, they're going to move to the next product and the next product and the next product, trying to build their real estate position. All those are investors in Bitcoin in the future.
Yeah.
Less than 1% of the world has any piece of this, man. And if you think people are max allocated to everything else, and I think there are, just the definite 57 people bidding on a $75 million property. There was a lot of money created in the last 5 years, man. It's all sitting on the sidelines looking for a place to play. And it needs to get on a treadmill and generate income, right? Energy. So if that's not clear why I'm excited, I'll happy to come on to your audience and let the audience ask really simple questions. Hey, that didn't make sense to me. Why? Why do you say it that way? We would make so much progress if people would just start really asking basic questions and be willing to appear to be really stupid, okay? And ignorant. There's no ignorant questions here at all. This is an opportunity that no one's seen before. So to not ask basic questions to me is a really huge error.
Yeah, I think that's why I get on most of the stages in X's, because I'm willing to ask the basic questions I think a lot of people won't ask. So, and I learned because of it. So I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I definitely want to do it again. I feel like we could. I literally had 12 questions. I think I got through 4 of them. So, but it's been a great conversation. And I want to take you up on the offer you made yesterday to kind of break down my financial position for people. So we'll figure that out. And
I'd love to do that. I think that'd be really helpful. I knew you would be up for that too. I think that'd be a real life example, man. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. And for people, what's the best way, Gary, for people to get in touch with you if they want to kind of learn more about what you're up to or whatever else you're doing?
Well, right or wrong, I'm doing a bunch of this social media stuff. So I'm trying to, my purpose is to help people. At Gary Cardone on Twitter and YouTube, and through the LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. It's pretty at Gary Cardone. Just don't follow the guys that are using anything other than Gary Cardone. There's no spaces in between, no numbers, no little hoodwinks. A woman called me the other day, sorry to take the time, but a woman called me the other day. Some guy robbed her for $8,000, pretending to be me. Women, I am never going to ask you for money. Okay. Probably not going to ask you for a date either. So that's just not I might meet you, but we're going to meet in person. We're not going to don't fall for these scammers. Okay. Let's just do your due diligence, please. But that's where they find me, man. And I've met so many wonderful people in this space through both this media, but the base topic, what has brought you and I together? And I'll end with this. I'll really shut up, but it's $63,000. Not one penny of that 63 grand is allocated to Bitcoin that put you and I together. Because if you wanted to talk about real estate, you would never, ever in 1,000 years have met me. I would never go on a show with Grant about real estate. I don't care. I'll read a book. Grant's deal is, hey, that's his deal. But Bitcoin got me here. This wouldn't have happened on energy or payments. They are boring subjects. But all of a sudden, there's tens of thousands of people talking about this Bitcoin thing. And, a fad with huge amounts of money and intelligence moving into it. So at some point, it's no longer a fad. I mean, this is going to be the blue jeans. There was a time in my life, dude, we looked at blue jeans and went, what are those things? Okay, now they're all jeans. I mean, it's just everybody wears jeans. So Bitcoin is, if it wasn't killed 5 years ago, it ain't dying.
Yeah.
It's too big now. It's too decentralized. And this is why I say like, you should not be panicking here. You should be sitting down with your wife going, hey, how do we sell some more stuff to buy at 63?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
For sure, my man.
No, I'm with you on that. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you again. You're the reason I'm in Bitcoin, and thanks for doing this. I will definitely reach out to you to schedule that other interview or whatever we're going to do. I'm looking forward to it. So just want to say again, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll have to do it again because I got all these questions that I didn't get to ask you, man. So thank you.
No problem. We'll get it on the schedule, man. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay.